This was all shot on the RONIN S with the Panasonic GH5. So the RONIN S, do I like it? Short answer, yes. I was shooting wide shots. I was shooting more close-up shots. It was a very versatile tool to have. So one of the main reasons why I love the RONIN S was that I was able to get some really deep shots, and they still looked very smooth and they looked very stable. And the reason why I like doing this on the RONIN S is because it gives a very cinematic feel. So what I do on my GH5, for example, is I put on a 12 to 40 millimeter f2.8 Olympus lens, and in the 35 millimeter format, that's equivalent to a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. And what that allows me to do when I'm on the RONIN S is I can easily zoom out and go wide if I need to. Or if I want to zoom in and get some close shots that look really cinematic and get good portraits and profiles of different people, then it's really easy for me to do that. I can zoom in and it only takes me maybe a few seconds to rebalance it just slightly, and then I start shooting. A lot of filmmakers like to shoot very wide on gimbals. And the reason being is because it's very easy to follow them, it's very easy to respond to their movements when you're wide and still keep them relatively in frame. However, I feel like sometimes those shots aren't quite the most cinematic. For me, when I shoot on gimbals, I really like to have a lot of blurred background, and I like to have some bokeh in the background. And so what I like to do is I like to zoom in a little bit more and turn my aperture down as low as it'll go. So for example, on the GH5, on these shots here, I had the 12 to 40 millimeter f2.8 Olympus lens. And what I did is I zoomed from 12 to 40 and I moved around my subject and I got a really nice, smooth, cinematic look. And why I really like that lens a lot is because it has a constant aperture to it. So it'll stay f2.8 at 12 millimeters and it'll stay f2.8 at 40 millimeters. What's really nice about it is when I zoom into 40 millimeters at 2.8, it gives me a really nice blurred background while the foreground is still in focus. So one other reason why I was able to get very smooth shots in the RONIN S was because I went into a certain setting that allowed the movements to be more smooth. Now I will point out, if you're a very run and gun filmmaker, like you're filming sports, you're filming parkour artists, the DJI RONIN S does have a sport mode. And what's nice about the sport mode that you push on it is it'll be very responsive to your movements. So if a character is running or someone is moving, the RONIN S will respond quickly to those movements. So I see the RONIN S being a good tool for wedding videographers because weddings are always very run and gun when you're doing shooting. It's great if you do music videos. It's great if you even do corporate gigs. You know, you're trying to charge the client less and you can't go in and set up a big dolly and everything. It's a great alternative to that. And as far as the settings on my camera, for picture profile, I just used a natural profile. And then I filmed the whole thing at 60 frames a second. And then I also did 24 frames a second as well. But I really liked the 60 frames per second look because it was very smooth and the bitrate is still pretty good at 60 frames per second, and so you don't really sacrifice on quality if you go higher. If you do shoot at 24 frames a second, you can still get it to be very smooth. As you can see in this footage here, I had my friend walking and he was talking. This was a Kickstarter video I was filming for him. And you can see here the whole time the RONIN S is following him really, really well. There's not a whole lot of bobbing going on. And I will point out this is probably like the third time I ever used a gimbal when I shot this. And so keep in mind that there is a very low learning curve to learning how to do this. There is one con that I see to the RONIN S, and that is the fact that it is kind of on the heavy side. And so if you're not used to using glide cams, or you're not used to using gimbals, it might take some getting used to, but your muscles will adapt and you will get used to it over time. as you practice and as you use it on different gigs and whatnot. What's also nice too is if you check the latest firmware on the GH5, they have updated the autofocus on it, because I know that was a huge complaint from a lot of people, is the fact that the GH5 did not autofocus. And now they have fixed a ton of issues in the autofocus. I've tried it out on the gimbal and it works so much better than it did before, so keep that in mind. So there you have it, my review of the DJI RONIN S.